So this is my go-to opinion on some form of game design. When it comes to designing open access, sandboxy, undiscovered but mysterious or wonderful storytelling, you bring that concept to your players on day zero. When you do your session zero game, when you've already figured out your players want to play, the next question you ask is going, hey, what kind of game do you want to play? Do you want to hack and slash? Do you want to just like fight you show up at the spot, fight the monster, get the reward, move on? Like, that's it. It's a bunch of grid combat and hexes, and you're making up some stuff, and you have a loot table. That's it. Do you want a plot, like a mystery? Do you want something to solve? Do you want non-combat? Or do you want like a Lord of the Rings travel adventure type situation where it's like going across multiple scenes with multiple different arcs and character development, and the hobbits in the beginning do not become the hobbits. They turn into a completely different character at the edge because they went through a progression line. Do players want that to happen by going from level 1 to level 20 or whatever? So you need to check. So I always make sure my players buy in by telling me what they want to be doing. I don't just say, hey, or I let them know that my normal go-to style is X. I'm also willing to do Y or Z, but I need to know what the audience wants. That being said, no matter which way you pick this design tree, the best thing to do, hey, it's Uber Shadow, the best thing you can do is remind the players that the world and what happens in the world is not just the DM's responsibility, it's also the player's responsibility and a space that they get to create in. You frame it in the concept of you get to help create a bit. And some players like that, some players don't. Some players are like, I want to know specifically what's here, 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 and here. And it's okay. That player, that's what they need. That's the structure they want. They want to passively be involved. Other players want that active space. The minute you give them the space going, hey, you get to design the religions of the plane, or you get to design a religion that your character's tied to. You get to design a company or encampment, a town, a city, a rogues guild, a bad guy from history lore. You get to pick some piece or several pieces and insert it into the narrative. And the DM will always workshop it, but like when you do that whole backstory designing window, a lot of people build that backstory. They write pages of lore and then nothing happens to it. Why? That's free content. That's an amazing piece of knowledge that can immediately be placed into the world. So what I do is I tell all my players, we do a session zero. I tell them this pitch. I tell them how I'm doing it. I tell them my data file. I give them the access to this lore document that you kind of can see. And then I say, what do you want to add? Or what piece do you want for your thing to do? What moment of creativity do you want to have to do the design piece? And then the players will just go. Now, my framework for why I do all this is because I come through it as an educator. This is how I have my students do Dungeons and Dragons. This is how I have done my research work, is letting creativity be the thing that drives the development of the project. This can work. This usually works. And if you give the tools to your players to do it, with the only connotation being it needs to make kind of sense. We need to make sure we workshop a couple of these variables together. We want consistency, but that's no different than building any fantasy story. That takes time. You have to use an editor. It takes time, rewrites, the whole 9 yards. You're doing the same thing with D&D content. You're just going to play in it after you start writing it. So that's my pitch. If you want more specific things, go ahead and ask me more questions, and we will build all that up. I plan on turning this into some YouTube content.